So I've created a resistance study series, which is more sort of academic. So I'll be teaching race, media, and international affairs to the masses beginning October 6th.
This is the best thing for you, Karen. I know it's the shell shock. It's normal, but inshallah, this is the best thing, folks. You joined me in mid conversation to Karen as I was telling her this is the best thing for her. Karen Attiah is free. Free at last, she is free. Washington Post can't tell her what to do because she's a free woman. And Karen Attiah is the editor of the Golden Hour Substack. Karen Attiah is the professor of this fantastic course that Columbia University could have had, but they were cowards as well. So Karen is going to open up to the people, and it'll be available for sign up when, Karen?
It's available for sign up now. Sign up while you can. The classes are going to start on October 6th and 8th. So I'm teaching race, media, and international affairs. Because clearly, we talked about this the last time I was on with you. Why are so many people afraid to talk honestly about race? First, it was Columbia canceling my class. Now I've been fired from the Washington Post for just simply talking about race. And I'm going to teach it and I'm going to write anyway. So yes, people can sign up, of course, for my Substack on the Golden Hour, and then resistancestudyseries.com. You can go and sign up for the classes. It's 7 weeks. I'll have amazing guest speakers. Waj, I would love to have you on at some point as a guest speaker. And where we really look at the history of media development and race. Yeah, and it's been a great class. I had a summer pilot. We had 500 students from around the world. My youngest student was 17. My oldest student was 79. 101 was so awesome. I already see someone from my class in there. Yeah. Hello, summer pilots here. I call them my summer piloteers. So it was such a cool, not just experience, but like a cool community in the face of cancellation and being pushed out. And I'm just saying, like, y'all, we have power.
That's right.
I know I say that all the time, but it's another thing to actually like live through it and to do it. And I guess I keep saying or thinking, I guess courage is a muscle. So being able to step out on faith and say, hey guys, would you still help me, support me, take this? And so many people have just been saying yes. So I felt very supported, even though, I think it's as a fellow immigrant kid, as a fellow darky who was told to believe in these institutions that this was the best, these were the highest and the best, and go to the best. So I did that at Columbia. I did that at the Washington Post. And now this is where I'm going to get pissed. Okay. Like I did everything right that I was supposed to do in life. I got all the degrees. I got all the brands, all the awards, all the things. And still in this country run by white men, run by the power and not values, it wasn't enough to keep me institutionally safe, right? And I hope that is a lesson for so many people. Maybe, I was sorry. Can I keep going? Can I keep like you're the first one to get me like this on Substack. Like like I said, I did everything right. I mean, have I made mistakes? Yeah, sure, I'm human, but in terms of what it means to like I have merit. I'm the most, not most, but I built the merit that I was told that would grant me security and safety in this system. And it wasn't enough. And I was at the Post for 11 years in one section, which is so rare these days, right? Most people are hopping from job to job. I'm a Leo, so maybe I'm like overly loyal to but I was an editor. I built sections for other people. Many people may have known me because I was Jamal Khashoggi's editor. I was the founding editor of the Global Opinion section, which allowed me to create a home for writers who especially have been pushed out of their countries for speaking the truth. Many of my writers were writers in exile, and we provided them a home. And that was just something very important to me. My mother is a war refugee from Biafra. And so there's always something in me about creating safety for people. And so many people may probably know me for after the writer I hired, Jamal Khashoggi, was murdered in 2018. Almost, this is giving me flashbacks to that time when he was murdered for speaking the truth in the Washington Post. We went to the mat for Jamal. I went to the mat for Jamal, not just Jamal, but for the Post, for the values of journalistic freedom and the basic First Amendment. Because I realized what happened to Jamal could happen to me, could happen
Yep.
to you. I said that to all the interviewers, that everyone should be scared about what happened to Jamal, who is a U.S. resident, and they still killed him, dismembered him, and our Trump, who was president at the time, covered up for his murders. And the Washington Post said, no, we will not let this go. No, we're going to model what it looks like to stand up for our writers, even if what they have to say is uncomfortable. We will protect them. And I remember at the time saying, we have to do this as the Washington Post because we need to be a model for other papers.
Yep.
For how to protect their writers in an increasingly dangerous world for journalists. So watch to sit here Jamal was killed October 2nd, 2018,
Mm.
almost 7 years to the day where my career has been killed for expressing myself in ways that were just accurately describing America's sort of ambivalence towards political violence, describing our empty rhetoric around political violence, and describing a documented pattern of white males in this country who have perpetrated shootings, anti-government violence, domestic terrorism attacks, school shoot, all of that. I was just describing America backed up by data, but I was doing my job. And the next day, I don't even get a conversation, notice of termination. So, I hope it's a lesson. I know you say it's a blessing, but I hope it's also a lesson
Mm.
for people. Yes, will I be okay? I still have a roof over my head. I still have a lot of support. I have a public profile, and thank you all for having my back. But this is scary, and I don't want to, minimize that. Of course, there's a lot to say about. I was the last Black columnist left. Everyone else had been Pulitzer-winning Black columnists, award-winning Black columnists, the last full-time staff opinion writer. I was the last Black one left in the
Mm.
in a city like Washington, D.C., which is, almost something like 40% Black on the census, and for a long time had been majority Black. What does that mean that us opinion journalists, where we're allowed to call a thing for what it is, we're not bound by
Mm.
the same sort of narrow confines of neutrality and not taking sides. We can say, no, this thing is wrong. No, this thing is right. No, this thing is nuanced. That is the power we have. And that is the power that they're afraid of, seem to not want. And it's not lost on me that Black opinion journalists at the Washington Post are being sort of taken out one by one as Washington, D.C. itself is under a siege. We're being occupied. There's, Supreme Court has just allowed racial profiling. And here we are, not allowed to talk about that? Again, yes, this is a blessing, but it's also an ominous warning. It's a lesson in general, about institutions, that ultimately these places are businesses. Ultimately, yes, I think as journalists, we put our heart and soul into the calling and into the mission, but your mission is different than your job. And I guess for me, yes, my mission will continue, but it's just something to remind yourselves that these institutions serve themselves. And a lot of these institutions will serve power. and will choose safety over truth. Or actually, I teach in my class that there's a history of these institutions, media institutions, directly putting marginalized folks in harm's way, right? So it's been crazy to teach my independent class about erasure of minorities. And I told them during the summer piloteers, if you're in this, you'll know how I said, I realize I'm teaching about newspapers erasing history, hiding history, while I know I'm in the process, or or well, now I've been erased. It's surreal. But anyway, that's
No,
my
I will
monologue.
disagree with you on only one thing. The only thing
What's
I'll
that?
disagree with you on is two things, actually. Everything else I agree with. The two things I
Mm,
disagree with is you said they crushed my career,
mm,
and I've been keeping this inside for a week because you told me not to tell anyone, so I haven't told anyone.
sure.
But what I told you a week ago is this is inshallah the best thing that'll happen to you after the trauma, and it is traumatic. You'll see. So they didn't crush your career. They actually, without realizing, had eggs on their faces. They hurt their reputation and they, inshallah, have elevated you. You'll see it. And number two, they have not erased you. They tried to erase you, but they failed. For those who are joining us right now, this is Karen Attiah. She worked for 11 years at the Washington Post, and she just went on a beautiful, I would not call it a rant, I would say a sermon. And it's an example, folks, that you know what? This country, the oligarchy, white supremacy, capitalism, it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter if you're the good black, the good Muslim, the good Latino. You went to the good schools and you worked twice as hard, more so than Karen and Stephanie, and that you got all the awards. You are disposable. And for all the whites who thought, and they'll just go after a Karen, and they'll just go after a Waj, and they'll just go after a pro-Palestinian activist, I give you Jimmy Kimmel. I
Mhm,
give you Donald Trump openly threatening the most milquetoast center establishment white man Jonathan Carl to his face. And I want to take this DeLorean back, Karen, if we can, if you're willing to share,
mhm.
if you don't mind. I gave you a call last week, I think almost a week ago,
Yeah.
and I called Karen just to ask her advice and help on something. And what I was doing, Karen, at that time, is I was connecting with other writers of color predominantly just to check up on them because we were all getting death threats. And I was getting death threats. And I said, oh, let me check in with Karen if she might know someone. And I called you late night and you picked up the phone and you were sounding kind of out of it. And then I
Mm,
asked you, and you're like, yeah, I'll give you this contact. Oh, by the way, I just got fired by Washington Post. Take us and then I think you said, I haven't told anyone. I think you're the first person in the media I just told. So and I kept it quiet. And then and I will tell you that I told you, I'll tell everyone I was watching what I told you then. I said, F Washington Post, F these cowards. This is the best thing that'll happen to you, inshallah. And then I will, this is, this is the world's worst I told you so week, but this is one of the good, this is the only good I told you so that I can actually, applaud myself for, is
yeah.
I said, you got to tell your story. Don't let these people muzzle you. And when you're ready, come out with your narrative. So let's take this DeLorean back one week.
Mhm.
You're living your life and you get the email from Washington Post. What was your sin, Karen? What did you do that made you this award-winning creator of the Global Opinions section, the editor of Jamal Khashoggi, the person who fought for freedom and pressed the last remaining black, not even black woman, the last black of Washington Post. They decided, you know what? Even though we know this will look bad, we don't care. Matthew Dowd's gone. Let's get rid of Karen. What was your sin, Karen?
My sin, quotes, gross misconduct was that I what disparagement of Charlie Kirk because I talked about white men and I talked about not wanting to tear my clothes and smear ashes on my face in performative mourning for uh any white man, honestly, who commits violence or espouses violence and specifically espouses violence and hatred. I'll have a detailed post about this on Substack later, but yeah, I was told that that it was gross misconduct, that the posts were unacceptable, and that it was even posing a physical safety risk to my colleagues. So I know that
Mm.
there's a narrative out there that people think I was fired for talking about Charlie Kirk's, you know, a characterization of Charlie Kirk's views on Black women, which are still racist. But it actually was not that. It was actually, they were basically saying that I disparaged Kirk slash white men. Again,
Mm.
anyone can go back to my Blue Sky posts and see I words mean things to me. So I specifically have said violent white men, but it will all come out. But basically, you're the first one to sort of hear it. They said violating social media policies and just like disparaging on the basis of race and gender. So basically, it's
Oh no, Karen, you just froze. Y'all, it could be me, but I just saw Karen freeze. Y'all just see Karen freeze right now. Let me know. Her internet connection is unstable. As soon as she was talking about why Washington Post, yeah, she froze. Okay, let me get her back. Thanks all. All right, we'll bring her back. That was very conspiratorial. As soon as she was talking about why the Washington Post fired her, did you all notice that? All of a sudden, literally at that second, she froze. Hmm. Before Karen comes, and thank you to the 1,200 people who are watching us. Karen Attiah is a fantastic journalist, award-winning journalist. She was with the Washington Post for 11 years, and she was actually one of the first casualties. You know, everyone's talking about Matthew Dowd, who got fired for the most benign comments, and MSNBC fired. Karen was actually fired that day, but she kept quiet about it for a few days. Obviously, it was very traumatic for her. Karen, you know, the funny thing is I was telling everyone the timing of that was so exquisite. Literally, as you were talking about why Washington Post did it, your internet froze. I'm like, it's a CUN conspiracy.
I
So
know. I'm like, wow, are the feds here already? Like, I'm just trying to.
So you violated their policy of speaking disparagingly against based on race and gender, even though you were very specific in your post that anyone could see that you were talking about violent white men. And the facts remain that the number one, uh, 98% of male shooters are men. Majority of shooters in this country are white men. The number one domestic terror threat in this country for the last 10 years is right-wing extremism and white supremacist terrorism. Karen. No, you froze again. All right, you're back.
Yeah. Hello, can you see me?
Now I can see you.
Hello.
Yeah, hell, can you see me? Your internet's really funky.
Yeah, I
No.
my internet is very look, everyone's trying to silence me.
Yeah, no, even the internet can't
Can you
silence
hear
you.
me
No,
now?
now we got you. We got you. We got you. Now we got you.
Alright, awesome. Alright, great. Thanks for bearing with obviously, I reject those charges as false, and, you know, more to come later, in terms of, you know, like I said, I was just doing my job and offering commentary in the way that I always have, that I've won awards for, that, and actually also as a journalist, because I've been a reporter as well, like, we know what to do in breaking news situations, right? Particularly when there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of just sort of emotion all over the place. We're trained to be balanced. And my initial reaction was to, again, not talk about Charlie Kirk that much. I was actually talking about this pattern that we have about violence, political violence in this country, and about how we talk about political violence. I hate the
Mm,
empty cliches. I hate the
mm.
rhetoric of the thoughts and prayers of that this is not who we are. Political violence has no place here. You know, I was just saying, like, I grew up in Dallas, the place of the Kennedy assassination. Political violence still has a cloud over that city. Like, this is a part of America's history. So, though my the Blue Sky and they're still up, anyone can see it,
It's on your article, which I'll link to.
it's
Hey,
on my
can
you
I
know,
read?
and
Can I actually read your post? Because you have it
yeah,
up
of
there.
course,
September
yeah.
10th, 2025, 4:57 p.m. Karen Attiah's Blue Sky post on the Golden Hour by Karen Attiah. She has all. I'm so glad you documented it. I wish I had hope for gun control and that I could believe political violence has no place in this country. But we live in a country that accepts white children being massacred by gun violence. not just accepts but worships violence. Now, this is Karen at 5:30 p.m. But we will also, political violence has no place in this country, but we will also do nothing to curb the availability of the guns used to carry out said violence. The denial and empty rhetoric is learned helplessness because the truth is, America's sick and there's no cure in sight. Karen Attiah, 6:05 p.m. Because America, especially white America, is not going to do what it needs to do to get rid of the guns in the country, it will have to be thoughts and prayers. Violence has no place. Out of a performance of goodness, not out of the resolve to convince their communities to disarm. Karen Attiah, 4:53 p.m. For everyone saying political violence has no place, remember 2 Democratic legislators were shot in Minnesota just this year. America shrugged and moved on.
Right.
What was
Um,
so controversial, Karen?
well, under the post about Democratic lawmakers and how, of course, in Minnesota, it still rocked them, but I think largely as a news story, yeah, we shrugged and moved on. Under that post, I had part of what keeps America so violent is this urge to
Mm.
excuse, coddle, provide absolution for white men who commit and espouse violence. And
I'll
apparently
quote
that
you.
was,
I'll quote you. This is the
yeah,
quote.
yeah, well, yeah. Tell me what I said.
Okay, so she said, for everyone saying political violence has no place in this country, remember, 2 Democratic legislators were shot in Minnesota just this year. America shrugged and moved on. She adds to her thread, part of what keeps America so violent is the insistence that people perform care, empty goodness, and absolution for white men who espouse hatred and violence. Again, I don't care for empty rhetoric. And then you have a Charlie Kirk quote, Black women do not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously. You have to go steal a white person's slot. That's probably what did it.
I can't speculate as to what I can say is what was explicitly the posts that they said were offensive was the performing absolution and care for white men who espouse violence, and the skeet about refusing to tear my clothes and mourn, or refusing to tear my clothes and smear ashes on my face in performative mourning for violent white men. Those were the posts that they quoted in the termination letter as evidence of disparaging based on race and gender, which of course I reject. It's descriptive. In the Minnesota shootings case, the perpetrator was a white man. You move. People actually know the name of that shooter.
Vance Bolter.
You do because you're a junkie, so not you. Everyone else. News junkie, I mean. But yeah, it's just a really, and I'm so sorry guys that my internet is so weird here.
No, keep
Um
going. I'll tell you. And people are still with you. There's 1,500
yeah,
people
thank
watching.
y'all. Um that's all, Waj. And so they're saying, and I got no harsh backlash. I've been through backlash and on social media. That I just went about my day because there was no viral kind of anger at what I said. Most people were like, "Yeah, you're right." And again, like I said, the balance that is required in those situations when we don't have all the facts. So I wasn't getting. I actually have tweets or Skeets posts where I'm talking about, you guys, we don't have a shooter yet. We don't have a motive yet. We don't know why this happened. We don't know who has done it, because already people, Trump especially, was trying to assign blame to the left, right? But even just in practice, you're supposed to exercise restraint. So, of course, I said what I do know. And what I do know about America is that we accept political violence and that we accept gun violence, and most of the sort of domestic terror attacks or political violence, politically motivated violence to send a political message, as documented by the FBI, as documented by the DOJ, as documented by the National Institute of Health, has been white male shooters.
Facts.
That's it. Just facts. Just facts. And I was punished for reflecting the facts about America. So,
So you
um,
do that post. You do that post. You're like, all right, whatever. It's like a normal post. You're not like, others like Greg Gutfield or Jesse Waters or Laura Ingraham on Fox News openly blaming without a suspect and a motive the left. You're not like libs of TikTok and all these other influencers who get, invited to do guest columns openly talking about war, civil war with the left. You're not the president of the United States of America before there was a suspect or motive addressing the world, blaming the left. You're not Brian Kilmeade, a white man who casually with his colleagues on Fox News says we should kill all homeless people. You didn't say any of that. You just said what we wrote. And you're going around, you're living your day, and then what happens?
I got fired from the Washington Post the next day with no conversations and accused of gross misconduct and that I pose a risk to the Post is what the letter said.
You pose a risk to the Washington Post.
Mhm.
You have muscles. I have seen your muscles. You do work
I
out.
my last piece for the Washington Post was about how I put on 20 pounds of muscle over the last couple of years and how empowering that was. And yes, I'm a martial artist. Yes, but I'm not, anyone who knows me, I'm very chill. But yes, they determined that this was way, I don't know. But again, I was just doing my job. And I mean, obviously, this is bigger than me. It's about opinion journalism. A lot of people don't understand that as opinion journalists, you're allowed to have an opinion. Yes, we have a responsibility to the facts, but we have our job. Our job is to take these facts and analyze them, is to come to our own conclusions about them, is to make observations, is to make commentary. I was told by bosses that my job was also to maintain a social media presence and offer to the discourse outside of just op-eds because the conversations are happening on social media. They're happening on TikTok. They're happening elsewhere, and not just in newspaper pages. So I was doing my job as responsibly, so I actually thought my posts were just very general, to be honest. And even the one there was one user who accused me of because I said political violence is wrong, murder is wrong. It is also true that this country still is violent. And there was one post that accused me of supporting violence. And I'm like, that's not what I said, or supporting what happened to Kirk. I'm like, I never said that. I expressed shock. I knew that this was going to come back to hurt everyone. And I was right. I said refusing to perform this over the top mourning for a figure like Kirk is not the same as espousing violence, right? Um, it's this notion that if you don't coddle violent white men, you're committing violence against them. Is
Well,
that
and look at right wing Mark Thiessen, who's a Washington Post columnist who tweets a lot of interesting things. His September 19th column. I'm on the Washington Post right now. Yes, the left has a political violence problem. Mark Thiessen, the double what you're talking about, there's a lot to unpack. But I've been saying it for a while because I was in these spaces. And while this was happening, Matthew Dowd was trending. Matthew Dowd was trending because he's a white man who is a former Republican who on MSNBC, as it was breaking, said what he said, which, by the way, was right. And Rebecca Cutler, who used to oversee me at CNN as talent, now she's the head of MSNBC, the liberals, right, Karen? They fired her. And while this was happening, Karen got fired from the Washington Post. And for those who are joining in, I called Karen for something else, and then I was told this, and she said, "Don't say anything." I'm like, I was.
you're the first to know. I remember we were talking about that because actually I'd finished a martial arts class or drilling with a friend of mine who's a UFC fighter. And I got the email and I was driving. I was in Dallas. So this has been a hard weeks for me. My father has been in critical care in
Oh,
the
I'm sorry
hospital
to
I've
hear. I
been
didn't know that.
in. Yeah, it's been a lot. My father nearly died a few weeks ago. And so I was in Dallas when I got this because I was just trying to help my family out. And then I get this email and so I was driving to try to meet a friend, and I was so disoriented when I was talking to you. I was literally
Yeah,
missing all
I
my
heard it.
missing all my exits. I was just like, I remember, I think intellectually, when I got the email, I was like, oh man, this is really inconvenient to be fired. Um, but at the same time, I was in shock. Yeah, clearly looking back now, I was in shock. And shock at how it was done, how, the stated reasons. Um, but I remember you said you're gonna be okay. um, and I think so, but I think again, yes, it's me, and my, like I said, I'm like, I look. Anyway, I've said some controversial things, true things, but just because something may be uncomfortable doesn't mean that they're not, you know, true. And even so, again, being able to provide commentary has been my job, has won these awards for the post, which they proudly paraded around.
Mm,
And, I was National Black Journalist of the Year. I won the Polk Awards, all of these things. I was in shock that my career with them came to an end without even a conversation.
amazing.
And that me doing my job all of a sudden wasn't a source of pride for them anymore. It was a source of risk, unacceptable. Um, and and again, like I said, being the last Black columnist at the Washington Post, knowing that now there are none, it's full-time staffers in the opinion section at the Washington Post. Now there are none,
Well, you got
and
Mark Thiessen. You got Mark Thiessen, and you got the Republicans and the conservatives. It is, I think this is so telling. We've always said, and people never believed us, that there's affirmative action for conservatives in media. They can say anything, and we always have to police ourselves, especially if you're a person of color, especially if you're Black. And Karen went above and beyond and was perfect and won all the awards. And while literally the entirety of right wing media was ginning up and inciting war, all those people still have their jobs. All these people, all these conservatives still have their jobs in New York Times, Washington Post. Barry Weiss embarrassed the New York Times again and again and again. Brett Stevens embarrasses the New York Times again and again and again. And they still have their jobs. And Karen was kicked out. And Karen, what I've been telling folks, and I just talked to Jared Yates Sexton, let's just keep it real. For the whole 10 years, what you and I and others have been talking about is white America, you were perfectly fine with Donald Trump because you thought it wouldn't affect you. You
mm,
thought, he'll just go after the Black folks, he'll go after the Muslims, he'll go after the undocumented, he'll go after the pro-Palestinian activists and speakers. And we kept saying, fascists come for everyone.
yes.
And this week has shown you that Karen, they were looking for an excuse to get rid of you. I told you that also when we talked. We've talked a couple of times the past week. They also got rid of Jimmy. And so, what's your message to all these folks who still have their coveted positions, your colleagues, former colleagues, who think that they'll be safe if they just bend the knee and toe the line?
I mean, I can say this for anybody, not just in media. We're seeing them trying to come after NGOs, trying to come after. This is a wholesale, holistic attack on anyone they deem as a threat. And your awards won't save you. Your accolades won't save you. Your years of loyalty won't save you. Being nice and quiet won't save you. So I still say you might as well be brave. You might
Mm,
as well. You might as well be courageous. You might as well, I think, someone told me right now, a good rule of thumb is everyone right now in this moment, if you're particularly working in an institution that is coming under attack, like take some time and write down what your values are. Like
mm,
get in touch
very
with
important.
what your values are, what your core kind of beliefs are, because I as shocking as this is, I can honestly say that I've I've never changed. Anyone who's been following me these 10 years, and I said this in my Substack post, my values as a journalist have been to use my power and platform to help people, to let people to share power, to share my platforms with other writers, with people, again, even if I disagree or don't like if you at least argue from a point of respect, um, that I can share that space and share that power. It's not a threat to me. And I've lived by those values all my life and as a professional journalist. And I'm grateful for the people who stuck with me all this time, because the way I write and comment today is the same that I did when I was a fresh-faced newbie at the Post in 2013, 2014, 2014. Um, I haven't changed. The climate did.
There you go.
But it's when the climate gets hard, when the storms come, that's when you have to stick to your values the most, because that actually tells you that those are the values that you actually have. It's actually more important to stand 10 toes down now and be of some fucking integrity. Um, like, anyone can do it when it's easy. It's in times like this now. So for me, I'm still the same. I've never strayed. I've never changed my tone. I've never strayed from the values of using the pen to do good, using the pen to be a mirror, even if it's uncomfortable. People would rather break mirrors than face themselves. And I understand that to an extent. Like, that's the price one has to sort of accept. People in societies, cultures don't like mirrors held up to them.
Well, America, as Danielle, my co-host, says, America, instead of facing itself in the mirror, what it will do, it will crush the mirror and then throw the shards of glass against black people and brown people.
Wow, perfect. That's it. Because it's like, to a certain extent, even with the Charlie Kirk shooting, the shooter, at least the suspect that they have now, alleged suspect, is a white man. And yet what happened was, the next day after the shooting, HBCUs, historically black colleges, get death threats.
Yep.
Black people were like, what do we have to do with this? This is white on white crime. We didn't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, what you call it, a left white guy, you call it a right white guy, it's a white guy. You call a straight white guy, a gay white guy, it's Tyler Robinson, a white guy. And they're like, no, it's the colleges. No, it's the transgender, the left, black people. Let's find a way to blame black people. And you're right, black colleges got threatened, NGOs got threatened. I got death threats, which is why I called you. You got fired. I mean, instead of and DOJ scrubbed its own study that shows the number one domestic terrorist. I mean, literally, folks, you think we're making this up? The DOJ, instead of acknowledging it, as Karen was saying, they literally said, nah, and deleted their own study from their website that said the number one domestic terror threat is right-wing extremists and white supremacist terrorism. You can't make this shit up.
And we saw the Utah governor, right, basically in the aftermath of the shooting, saying he was praying it was someone who's not one of us, is what he was saying. He was praying it was someone from out of state and out of country. He was praying that they could blame it on one of us
Yeah,
darkies.
he's like, ya Allah, let it be a black Muslim. Ya Allah, please. A black gay Muslim, please, God. I
Yeah,
mean,
so the
he literally told on himself. Karen, people are forgetting this. The Spence, Governor Fox, go watch the clip. In front of the world, he literally says it. I was praying, but he said something which right wing has not confronted with. His words. It was quote one of us. He said that.
Yeah, that was a mask off moment. That was like quiet part, like not just out loud, but megahorn, bullhorn, screaming from the rooftops, like, you know, sound weapon. Like, that this is the mentality, hoping that they won't have to deal with their own white violence problem, because there is one. And yeah, that's directly tied, I think, to the DOJ reports being scrubbed. This is all like a collective sort of denial. And I would even say the fact that, people think there's been a narrative that I got um, fired because of quoting Charlie Kirk, or trying to characterize his views. Of course, he was speaking about Ketanji Brown Jackson and Michelle Obama and Joy Reid and stuff, but he has plenty of
Oh yeah,
anti-black statements. It's not. It's because I put a lens on violent white men.
there you go.
And this is all in the termination letter. It is out there. Oliver Darcy has a copy. It got
Thought,
leaked. Right. Okay. I'll post it and I'll myself explain, or not even explain, but have people see like, no, actually, we're seeing this wave of trying to shield even identifying we have a white male violence issue. And we'll see. I'm hoping that people sort of, again, this is just describing patterns. This is facts. This is according to FBI, DOJ, multiple scores of domestic violence, not so well that, I mean, domestic violence, but domestic terrorist violence, political violence, gun crime violence, that this has been documented that one particular group has been by far taking the larger percentage of being the perpetrators of such things. And yet now the precedent is that an opinion journalist isn't allowed to talk about that.
well,
That's
what's
pretty
also
scary.
interesting, what you said, and the 1,700 people joining us is Karen Attiah, the editor of the Golden Hour on Substack, who was with Washington Post for 11 years, and she was one of the, if not the most high-profile casualties of this country bending the knee to fascism and white supremacy. You know, what you were telling us that the Washington Post accused you of threatening the Washington Post, right? That your comments are making the Washington Post unsafe. And again, it all connects to what we've been saying for those who watch the Left Hook or watch Democracy Ish. And what you said, the two enduring sins of America. I think you might agree with me, Karen. I've said the two original sins of America are white supremacy and capitalism, racism and greed. And the avatar of that is Donald Trump, along with cruelty and misogyny. And until we confront these two sins and put these sins to bed, it will keep appearing again and again and again. And the irony that Washington Post says that you terrifying Karen Attiah with your blue sky posts that, didn't really go viral. And most people said, yeah, what makes sense. You are a threat to them, but not, Donald Trump, who calls him the enemy of the state, not his MAGA supporters who have tried to kill journalists. Oh, not the fact that he's now openly threatened to take the licenses and censor anyone else. That's fine. And that just again goes to show you how we coddle white rage and white supremacy. Karen, when I saw what's happening with Charlie Kirk the past week, literally the hagiography, literally Cardinal Dolan coming out and praising him as a saint that happened today in my mind. I've always thought to myself, it's so amazing. How could racist, treasonous Confederates who lost a war, so they're losers, how could they have statues and monuments named after them? And now I understand, Karen, seeing the past week.
That's an interesting point. Yeah. Yeah, and even I mean, there's a broader point to be made, right, for forced memorializing, like forced mourning, like forced kind of you will not speak ill, not just speak ill, because we know that, on Mike Lee, right, making jokes about the Minnesota lawmakers being killed. We know that Charlie Kirk himself said George Floyd was scum,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yep.
Many of the far right wings, what's his name, Mike Cernovich, who in the aftermath of Jamal Khashoggi being murdered were saying that he deserved it, that they were trolling me after my colleague was dismembered and basically, attacking me when a man with kids also got killed, right? So it's like this gross. I'd never celebrate. It's not in my. I don't. I just don't. It's just not my style to like celebrate people's deaths in general. Like I don't know. I'm just not like spiritually, karmically. Like it's just not me. Like even if I don't like the person, like I don't. But what I'm more interested in is culture's reactions to those people. So
Yeah.
discussing legacy and the fights over those legacies. And as journalists, and that's why I think this is such a broader moment for First Amendment rights and press freedom rights. Our jobs are to, you know, with facts, help kind of comment, guide, act as mirrors, act as a community, as the nation is processing these things. Our jobs are to be able to be free to identify problems, propose solutions, go, stick camera phones and cameras and mics in people's faces to go find out the truth, right? And so I really just see, look, like America, if we're going to be talking about patterns, not just about gun violence, but our press freedom rankings have been going down the drain
Oh yeah.
over the last several years. I mean, my earliest memories of being at the Washington Post in 2014, I was a young producer, and I remember sitting at my desk watching as Ferguson was unrolling or was unfolding, and watching my colleagues like Wesley Lowery being arrested for trying to do their jobs, watching Al Jazeera crew being tear gassed. Yeah, and I remember that was like, and I've done a lot of work with press freedom around the world, like press freedom reports in other countries. And since then, it's only gotten worse for journalists covering protests, for journalists doing their jobs. I'm really nervous for particularly journalists in DC, particularly journalists of color.
Absolutely.
But as you said before, yeah, people think they can come for us and it's like, oh, whatever, we're safe, we're safe. White journalists, y'all need to be also on notice, because what they think they can do to us, they will try, have tried with
Karen,
you.
we've been warning, and they didn't care. And I've been saying this since the start of Trumpism, because we're in the DC. I'm in DC, and I've always had an interesting. I've been independent, but I've had a foot like in corporate America, and then they realize they can't control me, so they get rid of me, and they invite me back to get rid of me. It's always been this way, but I've been, the way they've even treated Trumpism like a game, like it's fun. Oh, look at even the people who did the hagiography of Charlie Kirk. Let's just stick in the past week with what Karen's saying. All white people. Ezra Klein, he did politics the right way. Gavin Newsom, oh, Charlie Kirk. The Atlantic writer, she said, I didn't read everything that he said, but he was a great man. Notice it's all white folks because it doesn't affect them. It doesn't affect them. They have the privilege to be able to look at it objectively and break bread with Ben Shapiro and say that Charlie Kirk did politics the wrong way and say, hey, can't we all just get along? Be civil. It's economic anxiety. Oh, it's both sides. Because, Karen, it didn't affect them. And I want to go back to your point about the forced mourning. And I want people to really think about this. You're telling America, the state, Ezra Klein, Washington Post, New York Times, even Democrats are telling Americans you have to adulate and worship and essentially whitewash and sanitize and praise this man who said that your people were better off during slavery, who literally one of his last tweets said that Islam is the sword that the left is using to slit the throat of Western civilization, who literally used his privilege and his platform openly and consistently and proudly to mock black people, to mock immigrants, to mock transgender people, to mock women. And you're saying that guy who lived his life like this, and I think you and I agree, you don't celebrate the murder and death. It's terrible. You should not celebrate this. You should condemn it. Political violence and vigilante violence, especially in America, country of 340 million people with 400 million guns. It's terrible, especially for people like us, right? At the same time, though, after condemning it, you're now telling us that we have to stay silent, that we have to cry, we have to perform all the stuff that you said in your blue sky tweet for a guy who says that the only reason that the best of the best of our community are there is due to affirmative action, that black women lack processing power, that black people were better off during segregation and slavery, that Islam is a threat, that Zohar Mamdani is, because he's Muslim, is like the 9/11 terrorist. And you're saying that we have to perform for them. Can you imagine, Karen, if it was reversed?
Right. Well, it's
Sorry for
like,
my rant.
no, no, there's something to this. It's almost like these folks are trying to find their George Floyd moment, right? Like in which to sort of unleash this wave of sort of almost like their version of it or something. Like a
Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day is on the same. You can't make this up. This is so America. Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day. F the Democrats who voted for this. His birthday is the same birthday as George Floyd.
what?
Yep.
Are you serious? Oh,
I
I
don't think
didn't
they
even
even
know
realized
that.
it.
I didn't even know that. The first thing I think of when you just said that, again, I'm a Texan. and I wrote about this. So Texas still has on the books Confederate Memorial Day as a public holiday. The date is, I think the date is officially like January 18th. It might be January 18th. Whose actual birthday is that? I might be quoting it wrong, but basically, long story short, is when Texas legislators decades ago Black legislators were able to make Martin Luther King Jr. Day a holiday, white legislators like pushed back, fought against it. They voted to make Confederate Memorial Day on the same day as the Martin Luther King Day.
Of course.
This is like this. It's an interest. Again, if the Washington Post still had me, this would be a column I would write. But I'll just have to do it on Substack. But like the way what I'm thinking is like there's a certain way that calendars and memorials and that they have to almost compete with, overshadow, literally whitewash the days that they have, whether it's George Floyd's birthday or Martin Luther King's birthday. Like, this is a historical pattern. Like, it's not new. And again, as a columnist, as a journalist, my job would have been to be like, this news thing happened. They're doing this on George Floyd's birthday. Actually, Texas still has a Confederate monument, Confederate Memorial Day on the books. That's also same as Martin Luther King Day, right? Like, that is just something that is a historical pattern that it would be my job as a journalist to point out. But in the climate that we're in, this Charlie Kirk case is being used as a muzzle, as a gag, as a weapon, as an AK-47 instead to blow up our freedom of expression and of nuance. And frankly, it's destroying debate, which they claim to care so much about, right? Like,
It's all bullshit. It's all to, there's a great book by Carol Anderson called The White Rage. I strongly recommend reading it. Carol Anderson, fantastic professor from every university, Black woman who very readable, 250 pages, has shown, Karen, throughout US history, every time there is one step towards justice, towards equality, there is maybe two steps back where white rage hijacks this country. And all of this is in response to Barack Obama. This is in response to it's that one moment, that one, like, I don't know, month that apparently corporate America cared about Black Lives Matter and Me Too and women. Gay people are like, oh, we can be gay without like dying, and now they're seeing Zoran Mamdani become the mayor. They're freaking the F out. It's all happening in front of you, folks. Everything that Karen, myself, and others, those of us who have had privilege in the New York Times, in Washington Post, at CNN, to say, it's coming to fruition. And for many of our white colleagues who are listening, you are not safe. I give you Jimmy Kimmel, and I give you Matthew Dowd, and I give you, and all the people of color, because in our communities, Karen, there are people who voted for Trump and people who said, I'll be okay. I got the money. I golf with Chet. Chet likes me. I'm good. I drive the Tesla. I'll be fine. No, you won't. No, you won't, because you look like me. You look like me and Karen, and when you walk in the street, they're not going to see the Tesla. They're not going to see that you golf with Chet. They're not going to see your nice two-story house in the gated communities. They're going to see an invader. And so we're in this together, folks. We're in this together. I want to ask you this question, Karen, before I let you go. Thanks for taking the time. I texted you. I've been waiting because I know it's a lot to process, and
mm,
and and I'm going to stand by what I said, folks. I'll tell you exactly what I told Karen a week ago for the 2,000 people joining us. Karen Attiah is the editor of the Golden Hour Substack. She has a fantastic class on the intersection of race and media, which we will promote in 2 minutes, shamelessly. But a week ago, I had ended up calling Karen because me and a few other people were getting death threats because we didn't toe the line on Charlie Kirk. I condemned the murder and I condemned his legacy of hate. And I took on the MAGA. I refused to be silent. And oh my God, they came after me. And I got an actual death threat. I called Karen and a few other people to talk about that. Karen was out of it. We found out she was out of it because my timing was awesome. And I just apologized profusely because literally she had just found out she got fired from the Washington Post. And as she just shared with us today, she was just driving. It's happened to me before, Karen, too. When you're traumatized, your brain doesn't work. You literally
yeah.
miss happened to me years ago when there was one. Yeah, just a lot. Your brain kind of just doesn't process. So poor Karen, as she was driving, then told me this. And I told her then, I said, this is the best thing that'll happen to you. You will finally be free. It's your time to jump in the waters, own your story. Don't let these mother effers silence you. Alhamdulillah, on Monday, a few days later, she came out with this big story.
Mhm.
And I woke up to it, and she was trending for all the right reasons in Blue Sky. She was trending for all the right reasons in Twitter. She also got some hate. And I do want to ask you this. It seemed that there was a universal condemnation to Washington Post for bending the knee, and it seemed almost universal when it comes to colleagues. Colleagues came out in for you. What have you heard from your Washington Post colleagues, if you don't mind me sharing, asking?
Sure. I mean, I've gotten a lot of messages of support. I'm a union member, so the guild issued a strong condemnation of my firing, calling it unjust. And so that's on social media. So a shout out to WAPO Guild. Thank you for the support.
Obama
Um,
supported you, as Kat
yeah.
mentioned. I saw that today.
Yeah, yeah. Obama, Dan Rather, has written about me. You know, has been and again, I do appreciate it. A lot of colleagues have reached out, and because like I said, that was my life. I was there. I enjoyed it. I loved so much of my job, despite, of course, the challenges of just doing journalism, this crazy business, being black, all of that. I don't discount, but like the ability to be able to ask questions for a living, to express yourself for a living, to learn about different things and different people was a lot of fun. It's cool. It'll still continue, but I appreciate the support. Like I said, I'm still grieving and I'm still coming to terms with again the fact that the first people who've taken me on to even do these one-on-ones and give me the time and space to process and to think about it hasn't been mainstream media. I have not been able to get a one-on-one with the major
Wow.
anchors. It's
Wow.
been substackers, podcasters, black media, international media, but like a prime time exclusive sit down on the traditional TV networks. Trust me, my team, you would think this would be the last, and
Wow.
I know so many of the I've been on their shows and stuff, so I'm not like some unknown
Well,
entity,
no,
but
Karen, that's why I waited. I waited to ask you because I'm like, I don't want to be exploitative. And I also said, this poor lady's probably been like overwhelmed with like all the fancy. Who am I? I just drive a minivan. But I'm really shocked to hear that they didn't reach out to you.
yeah, I mean, like there are a few, and I'm obviously trying to be diplomatic. There are a few that reached out one in particular that reached out immediately, but wanted to be a part of this sort of like more like sound bites or panels. And I was like, yeah, I preferred to just be able to have a sit down one on one to be to really kind of talk through this and make my case.
Can you debate this with Scott Jennings, who will get a majority of the talking time, and Karen, and you have to respond to his bullshit? Just throwing it out there. You mean something like that, Karen? You mean something like that?
I mean, it was so strange to really again 7 years ago all the major networks were clamoring for a one-on-one. My first one-on-one after Jamal Khashoggi died and making the case for press freedom and why we needed to push for accountability. I remember it was Brian Stelter of CNN. I have not been able to get on with a one-on-one with CNN or MSNBC, any of the major places yet. My first interview, like sit down one on one, and y'all can see it was with Don Lemon in a cafe eating scrambled eggs with a one man camera, not in some fancy studio. And then it's been you, Jim. It's
And Jim,
been,
I just saw you went on with Jim. So
yeah,
me, wow, Jim and Don, refugees from CNN. I was a commentator for a year. Wow, that is
we're
shocking to me. That
refuge,
is
we're
shocking to me.
refuge. We're refugee. Yeah, I'm having to process like that, I think it's fear, or I think I don't know, I don't really know, but, to me, it's also indicative of where the future is going. I've been joking that, like, Substack is now the new public broadcaster.
And they're
Right.
gonna come after us. They're gonna come after us, Karen. But that's the why I'm trying to build out this community. And also because they're gonna come after YouTube. They've already gobbled. They're trying to gobble up TikTok. If you notice, you listen to my talk with Jared. We're talking about what's happening behind the scenes. Larry Ellison's son, Dan Ellison, Nepo baby, is running Paramount and CBS, and he's bringing on Barry Weiss, and his daddy, Larry Ellison, now has made a bid, according to Wall Street Journal, to take TikTok and also Warner Brothers Discovery, who owns Warner Brothers CNN. Also, what does Warner Brothers Discovery own? John Oliver, HBO. So they're coming after all of us, which is why we have to be 10 toes down. Whatever spaces that we have left, Substack, YouTube, I know they're not perfect. I know, just we have to guard these. We have to
Mm.
guard these with our life. You have to support them. You have to support the right voices because at the end of the day, folks, I'm telling you all, they don't care about black people, brown people, democracy, freedom. They care about money. And if they see that you are supporting people like me, Jim, Karen, they're like, this is good business. And so this is where we're at, folks. This is where we're at. Karen, I really thought that more people would have reached out. I waited because I thought you were getting
No.
inundated. I'm
No,
really
I
saddened
I
by it.
I mean, I was, but the sort of ideal, the old playbook is like, okay, let's get a primetime exclusive interview with a TV network, broadcast that to the world, and do everybody else after that. When in reality, the ones who have been the most courageous, who reached out first to give me space, not just give me space, but give space and time to this story and the broader implications of what happened to me have been Substack, podcasters, independent media, and actually foreign media, not TV, cable broadcasts. So it's not just what happened to the post, it's the support that I thought I would get from, my colleagues in the broadcast industry that just hasn't been there. So I agree with you. Like, and people keep saying, like, I'm going to boycott the Washington Post. I'm dropping my subscription. And of course, I'm not. Like, there are plenty of journalists who are still doing good work here. But I'm like, if you really, really want to support me, please, sign up to my Substack. Please sign up for Resistance Summit. So even if we can't take the course, to contribute towards like bringing on cool, I hope, future guests like Waj, so that we can
Yeah, just
actually
invite me.
yeah, so that we can have,
But Karen, let's do this better.
yeah.
Tell people specifically how they can support you. What is your Substack's name?
My Substack's name is The Golden Hour. I named it that because golden hour means, the perfect hour of sunlight for photographers. But actually, the golden hour also is a medical term, which means there's a window of opportunity of when a patient that has trauma is critical. But you have a short amount of time to save something.
Yep.
And now, given what's happening, like it feels like we're in America's golden hour. Like we have a limited window to save what's left of our democracy in the First Amendment. So yeah, and I like gold.
And Andrea, your student, is here, and she says, "We love our professor, Professor Attiah." What is she
Oh.
talking about? Professor of what?
Yes. So this means I'm fully unleashed into my rogue radical professor era. Columbia University, where I was once a student and I was once a professor, cancels my course on race and media. So I decided to start my own damn school. And it is now the Resistance Studies series. And we are enrolling for our second class in fall, where I'm going to be teaching race, media, and international affairs 101 and 102, all online, very affordable. It's such a great community. Shout out to my students who are here who took the summer pilot class. So that's another way you can support me. Even if you can't take the class, refer to somebody who might be able to take the class. If you don't think you can take the class, and it's once a week, it starts on October 6th, once a week. I'll be lecturing. I'll have amazing guest speakers. Um, and even if you can't attend, I record the lecture so that you can watch on your own leisure, watch or listen at your own leisure, and you'll have the videos of the lectures available, the lectures and the guest speakers. And there will be a syllabus, there's reading. So this is very much an Ivy League class.
Ivy League class,
Yeah,
and
and you get it.
she's breaking up. She's breaking up. But for those who are watching, with my final few bars left, um, And as Karen is breaking up, there's 2,100 people watching, which is big for Substack, Karen. This will be up
Right.
on my Substack and Karen's Substack. And then once it's up, it will be going out to my subscribers and Karen's subscribers. You can also watch this on YouTube. For those who've joined us late, this is Karen Attiah, in her words, describing why she believes she was fired by cowards at the Washington Post. Go read her own post and then see the capitulation of Washington Post instead of actually defending a journalist like Karen, who defended Jamal Khashoggi, who was also killed for speaking out, who was also literally chopped up to death by MBS for literally speaking the truth to power. Karen defended him. Washington Post back in the day defended him, and that same Washington Post decides to throw Karen under the bus, just like MSNBC threw Matthew Dowd under the bus, just like ABC threw Jimmy Kimmel under the bus. So thankfully, Karen is like, yeah, I'm not going to go out quietly. She's telling her story. She's 10 toes down, as she should be. And she connects the dots about how this is not just about Karen. This is not just about Jimmy. This is not just about Matthew Dowd. This is about speaking out. This is about speaking truth to power. This is about standing up for something. This is about calling out white supremacy. This is about calling out white violence. This is about calling out performative outrage, even if it makes some people uncomfortable. Karen's Substack is Golden Hour. What's the name of the course?
It is called Race, Media, and International Affairs, and you can find the signups on resistancesummerschool.com. Race, Media, and International Affairs 101. I have for as low as $100 for a 7-week course, all the way up. I have a
Cost
sliding
nothing.
scale. Yeah, a sliding scale. So I'd love to fill all of those seats and teach all of you guys at scale and get to, bring your notebooks. We've also got t-shirts. We've also got notebooks. We've also got, the merch. So I believe in having fun when it comes to life and resistance. So you know what? We got to create our own institutions now. So that's what I'm doing.
Thank you, Karen, for coming on. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for not being cowed. Thank you for standing up for something. Thank you for inspiring your students and the rest of us. Folks, there's 2,200 people watching. This will be up in our Substacks later today. This is the left hook. I'm a terrible capitalist. I've kept no paywalls. Everything is for free. If you have a few dollars, anyone who's first subscribe because it's free. If you have a few dollars, I want you all, instead of giving me a paid subscription, give all your money to Karen. Become a
Thank
paid
you.
subscriber to the Golden Hour. Subscribe. Let her rise up in Substack and get her voice out there. Karen, my phone's dying. I'm so sorry, but thank you for taking the time. And everyone else, be kind, be decent, be empathetic. Speak up, speak up, speak up. You have to speak up. And speak up for each other. Speak up for the marginalized because they're coming after Palestinians, pro-Palestinian students, undocumented, homeless people now, the mentally those who are sick, suffering from schizophrenia. They're going after them. They're going after everyone. They're going to go after you as well. Speak up. We're all in this together. Be kind and don't be a fascist. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Waj. Thank you